Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Healing Table. I'm Grace.
Welcome to the Healing Table, and I am Julia.
And today we're going to be talking about basically the lost art of storytelling that is going on. I feel like some parents, they like to tell stories about things that what happened when they grew up and everything, but some parents, like my dad, he doesn't want to tell nobody nothing about himself or what's going on or how his life was. I have no clue how he grew up, how he was as a teenager, as a kid, or anything. So trying to get those stories out of him is hard sometimes, but I got a little bit here and there when he feels like he's ready to share some stuff, or whenever I guess circumstance or something is relating to something that he remembers. Sometimes he'll say it. But my mom, I think she told me about how back home, the elderly would sometimes group the kids together and just tell a bunch of stories. If you want to talk about that and maybe share one of your favorite stories that you remember from one of the grandmas in the village.
Back home, when we were growing up, as you guys, if you guys follow our show, I did not grow up with my mom or my dad, but there is a they say the baby when in your belly is your own baby, but when it's outside, it's everybody's baby. So we used to have these elderly people. They will come and tell about the story, and we really like before you know it, all the neighborhood. Of course, they're gonna be telling the story with your language. It's not Arabic. It's not because they do not know how to speak Arabic. They will tell you about the story with our dialect, and I think that's the way that they can teach us how to speak the language, or listen to them to their language, or try to understand exactly what they're talking about. Because some stuff you don't understand, and you gotta ask, "Do you understand what Grandma said?" And they will say yes, yes, and they will talk about the story every time before you go to sleep. You will see them sitting down or drinking coffee, and they will like, "Oh, do you need me to tell you about this? What happened?" And you will sit down, and they will talk and tell us all the stories. I know that if I talk about the story here, I have to translate it because my daughter doesn't know how to translate it. But they're talking with our dialect, like Merfein. Basically, do you know what Merfein is?
No.
So you see, it's like not the hyena but the lion, basically. So they will talk about this and all this kind of stuff and who is smart. Lotole is what is the rabbit basically very smarter than anybody and all this. I got a lot of stories that I got out from my neighbor grandmas from my village. Then I got it from my household, basically. And I remember a couple times that me and my brother got beat up because we love to go listen to her. She's just a next door neighbor, but she always bring the kid around and talk about my brother, wife's mom. She used to tell me how good my daddy is. My daddy used to be a helper. He used to helping people and doing this. And he told me about my dad more than my brother told me about my dad at all. I know a lot of stuff about my dad from her because he basically know my dad. And my dad died. I was young. I was 2 years old, so I don't really know a lot of memory of him. But she told me a lot about him, and she always tell me nothing will happen to you. Your dad is watching over you and all this kind of stuff. So I used to love her so much. I remember when she's passing away, they're taking her to the hospital, and she refused to go to the hospital before I get home. I was at work. I used to cook when I was 15 or 16. I used to go out and cook, and it just like a little restaurant, like a local restaurant. That's the way I used to pay my student loan, take care of myself basically, and my brothers too, so that I can take the burden out from my brother because the life is very tough. So the storytelling, I know my husband, he was not gonna tell you anything. At least you have to trick it, and then he will tell you. I don't even me. I had to ask before he tell me anything. How he grew up, how everything about that. To be honest, I learned a lot from my husband dad than his because we used to talk to him a long time. Even my husband like, what you guys talking about, you and my dad? I was like, well, we're talking about he talk about himself and what is going on at work and if he is sick and My husband used to be jealous a lot because we talk, and he talk Kakwa language because he married from Kakwa. That's where I'm from, Kakwa, and he's from Latuka, but he speak the language very well. So sometimes we exit to that road and we talk and we'll be laughing, and I learn a lot from him, a lot about his family, about everything. And if he's sick or anything, and instead of telling his son, he always tell me, and then I will tell his son. I don't know what's the connection, but he always does that. But I think he's open to me more than he's open to his son. When they talk with his son, he talk just a little bit, but with me, he can talk hours and hours, and we will be laughing, and he will go to my language, and he will come back to English and Arabic at the same time. So we'll be just going back and forth, back and forth. So I really enjoy him telling me a lot of stuff about his family and about how we're supposed to raise our children, what do they want, and he always encouraged all my kids when they're graduating. The first thing he will tell them, don't give up, go to the next and do the masters, do this. I know he's gonna miss that because he's not here. But I know when Brian graduate, we call him and we talk to him. And when Gracie graduate, we call him and we talk to him. And Tala graduate. And he was encouraging Tala and tell Tala about a lot of stuff. And he tell Gracie, I know, and they know that what the grandfather need from them. They tell them a lot of how grown up stuff. But in South Sudanese family, we don't like to talk about ourselves. So my question is, if those kids are grown up, what they gonna tell the children? What they going to tell them? I don't know. Let me ask Gracie. If we did not tell them anything about ourselves, what they're going to tell their children tomorrow about their family?
I would say personally, like I know a lot about my mom's backstory. She talks about her past a lot, and I know a lot about everything that she's went through, and I feel like I can say a lot to my future kids about how their grandma grew up and the lifestyle that she had and what experiences that she had. But for my dad, yet again, I'm not really sure what I can really say other than what tribe that what tribe that he's from, and maybe a little bit about my grandfather because I did know about him. But I would like to have more conversations with him about his backstory and his history as well, because that's a good thing. I feel like sometimes people, they like to do DNA ancestry stuff to get to know about their family lineage, what did the people in the past before them do with their lives, or did for the community, or did for whatever. But sometimes those things, they don't get well documented as well. So even just having those little stories within the family that gets passed down, I think those things are very
important. I was telling you guys, when Gracie had grown up, she's 2 years old. She got in that car accident and really like the doctors basically give up. They were like, we don't promise you anything, but I've been praying and praying, and she's here right now. Those kind of story, if I didn't tell Gracie what happened, did she would know? No. She would not know. You gotta tell your child when she was baby, how she walk, how she act, how she do stuff, so that she will know about herself better. Because the baby from the belly, you will know how that baby is gonna come out and how she gonna be act. And she's tough from my stomach, I'm telling you. I remember for the first time in my life that one time I was angry and the guy, me and my husband went somewhere, and we buy the Coca-Cola, and because wanted to drink Coca-Cola, and the Coca-Cola is very hot, and I was so angry. I poured the Coca-Cola down. I was like, you know what? I said, my husband, just pay him and we do not have to come here again. And I was so angry because I need something cold, something good and everything. So she is kind of like the same person. She's very smart. You will get, when they are little, you will know who they are. Even though sometimes they are like, oh, mom, you don't know about, no, we know. But sometimes you're just gonna, let them learn about little by little. Don't force it because you can mess it up. But if they go in the wrong way, you always correct them so they can come back to whatever they're supposed to be. The storytelling is not good because we come from South Sudan. Like somebody like me, I grew up in Khartoum, and from country Damascus, from Damascus here. Those story when you don't tell your kid, they will be like kid that they don't know what they come from. You know, if that they will not know where they come from because why? Even they know that from the South Sudan, but they don't have no story about South Sudan and where's the family practice and is the Muslim or Christian, how the family act in crisis, this kind of stuff.
And I did want to also add, like, a lot of, especially like I would say, news outlets, and you search up certain, I guess, topics or things that happened in the past. Sometimes it still very much have a lot of like propaganda, and it really tell the full story about what really is going or what really happened.
Yep.
And like for my mom that has lived through a lot of the civil wars that happen, and that they lived and we came here as refugees and things of that nature, she could really tell me like what really went, like what is really and what's not true, because they're trying to history, especially like even here for the Black Americans as well, like
Yeah.
they try history and make it seem like slavery
It's normal.
is normal, and things that used to do to Black people here were
Yeah.
okay, and they were the people who were the aggressors and all of this. But yeah, I think it's important to pass down these stories as well. It's just the same
Yeah.
reason as
Yeah.
well, to keep the
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah, I would not say like you sit down and do the story, but at least one a week, you know. Or if you one a week is even too much, make it every month. Just sit around the table after the lunch or after the dinner and talk about this stuff, because there is no promise for tomorrow. Again, you can be gone from any time, and the kid they did not know anything about the dad or mom, and that's sad. Why? Because you're leaving the child without knowing anything, without knowing even if you have a family member who to turn to. They're not gonna know the information. They're not gonna know what is the name calling. And our children, they really sometimes when you tell them like, "Oh, this is my brother," did I know him? That's the question. And you said no, you did not know him. You did not talk to him. How it can be your brother and you will never talk to him? How he can be your family and we never know about him? Those kind of questions I go through with a lot at time, not just with my children, but a lot of kids, but a lot of youth in my place here, they like when I find them places, they always hug me and ask the question. They were like, how are they gonna be that when it's not that? They asking the question. So I know that there is a lot of Sudanese people that do not talk about anything. You used to be a drunkard, you used to be a smoker, you used to be that. That's the stories that you can tell, like, hey, child, I used to be a smoker, I used to be a drunkard, but I don't need you to go to that way.
Yeah.
Because that way, me almost gonna lose my life or lose my family and all this kind of stuff. This is the story that we have to talk it in the family all the time.
Yeah, especially like I like in our communities, like a lot of the times the parents don't want to tell them about like their past and actually tell them the true testimony about things that they actually
Happened to them.
Giving that backstory of like what happened to really changes the perspective of like how the information that your parents are giving to them. Like if your parents are just like adamantly no smoking, no drinking, no this, and
Yeah.
it's like, okay,
They don't
but like
explain.
why? I mean, obviously you know that those things are bad for you, but you can get, you never know. Like you can get things in the future, and you never know you would ever do anything like that. But also having like that background story, like how in your family from doing this X, Y, and Z, or getting addicted to this, but either overcoming or their downfall, like hearing everybody's testimony, their own life and their own like overcomings and stuff, it's really encouraging. I would say, even I know my mom talked to me about like what happened to me stuff whenever I was younger, and I never would have known if she didn't tell me. But at the same time, like that's something that like always kind of about feel like I'm not doing enough, or something about like I wanted, but I can feel like I can be that low because I'm here and I'm not disabled. Like,
Exactly.
it's my little waste. That's how I feel.
It cannot go to
So-
waste because I did not let it to go to waste.
Yeah.
And I pray God that this girl is gonna be Grace. That's the name it come from that accident. They used to wear. And I is Grace until the Grace is stick into the all over the place. Now they call her Grace, but her name is Wia. Her name is Kafuki. That's the original name. But that Grace, that's my husband' mom name. It's supposed to be a church name. Nobody called the church name, at least in the paper. But when that happened, I start calling her Grace. I leave you Wia on the side, and I just call her Grace because of grace of God. She is here with me. And even though the doctor gave us the hope, but I know that God, the only one in control of everything.
Yeah.
So those stories really good to tell your children. You know, if basically people can drink and can smoke and they can quit easily. But if you have that kind of blood, that if you drink and smoke, you're not gonna be easy for you to quit. So guess what? If you don't tell your kid your story, your testament, and then you just tell them like, hey, I don't need to drink, I don't need to smoke, I don't need to do this, but why? And you cannot explain to them, it's not enough.
Yeah.
It's not anybody who living life. You gotta tell them like, hey, because I did that before and I know it doesn't work with me. I did that before, I'm almost gonna lose everything. I did that before and I was in the street. I did that before, my family rejected me. I did that before, all this kind of stuff, you know? You have stories so that your kid they will know, oh, you know, my parents did that happen to them. So I had to protect myself not to get to that level.
And it's almost like, say like your family, like they get cancer, and
Yeah.
your parents don't do. Oh,
About
we
cancer.
have something with our dad. You know, a lot of family members get cancer, and you just live your life without going to go get checked about the cancer, and then like last minute you get cancer, and then it's like, why didn't you tell me or notify me about, you know,
I have cancer.
basically like
Yeah.
I need to my, you know, health, or to go get blood tests and stuff.
Yeah.
More, you know, it's the same.
Yeah, it's
Same
the same. Like me, I have thyroid. I tell my kid, all of them, I have thyroid. So that if you guys are grown up, you have to check in that. I didn't have it when I was young. I don't have anybody in my family, you know, in my lab, but they did not get checked by the doctor, you know. And now I give to all my children so they will know, you know, they had out. And my son, now he have it, you know. Basically everybody has in the system, in the body, but something had to trigger to come alive. So if it come out, it's not gonna go anywhere, you know. You have treatment or you have to have a surgery or all that stuff, because if you did not treat it well, it can turn to cancer. And if it turn to cancer throat or throat cancer, no cure for it. You can die. Which if you can manage it to years and years and be happily and stay here with your children, but you can cut your life short because you did not check anything. And I know, I understand some of us they don't understand when we go to the checked up, or we don't know how to read the result, basically. We always get our youngest one. That's the reason why we have our children to read our result and to tell me. Even me, I can read a little bit, but sometimes I don't understand what that means, you know? So, like, come out 2 weeks ago, I give it to Grace. I was like, can you see what is happening here? And when she explained to me everything, like what high, what I can, you know, what thing it can happen to me and all that stuff, that it changed the way that I think, you know? You see what we have to do, because I know that there is a people that they die of cancer in South Sudanese, they cover it up until the children they're gonna know when she's dying or he dying, or they're gonna know afterward after it got better. That's not okay, you know. This is not any hope. It doesn't move us forward. So you leave your family in the dark, but you know that that's to the next generation, you know, and then you spread the information. So guess what? You're gonna lose the generation, and then the generation after, if they did not explain, they're gonna do over and over and over and over and over. So we have to talk about storytelling is a very important thing.
Yeah. But I think really it for today's video. I hope you really understand where we're coming from, and also begin to tell each other stories here and there.
Yeah.
Because I hope you understand like how important you know, storytelling is as well.
Yeah.
Coming from a whole different country, but If you wanted to add anything else, Mom?
Yeah, coming from different, and you did not come just from South Sudan and you just made it here to America. You come from South Sudan to Egypt, to Uganda, to Kenya, to different places. What's your experience there? You know, until you America, what kind of process you went through? You know, before you, and what's your experience here when you get here? Those kind of stuff that we have to talk about it, so that our children, they will know that it's not easy for the parents to bring them here, so they will better about our struggle. This is our struggle, you know, out here. It's not easy. But when we don't tell our children and we expect our children to become angels just like that without knowing anything, it just is like you're walking in the dark and then somebody expect you to walk straight without falling. Like it's not even. So we talk about those kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like me, that's the reason why we create this platform. I have to tell about story. If you have any story that you need your children to know, and some people they're shy. I don't know if they're shy or
Maybe it triggers something if they tell certain stories.
yeah, like me, have some story. Even though I'm telling my kid, I cry. You know, even telling them I cry. That trigger me, but I have to tell it. It's not easy to keep it to myself, and then this is the stuff that your kid is supposed to know about. So that's all I have to say. You guys watch the whole show. If you did not go and see us in YouTube, please search up the Hidden Table and watch all the episodes in YouTube. And we'd love to see you there.
Thank you guys for watching this video. Don't forget to share, like, and comment. So we'll see you guys in the next video.
Thank you guys.
Bye.